Hi everyone, this is Dr. Spears here at drpremed.com. I'm doing something a little bit different that I haven't done before. What I'm actually doing is I'm actually revising or editing a personal statement. So I'm going to actually show you the process that's going through my head as I actually look at this personal statement. I haven't read it, I haven't had any advance notice, but I'm going to just kind of go through it and tell you a little bit what's running through my head as I take a look at it. So if I'm not looking at the camera, it's because I'm actually reading the screen live and doing this on a cuff. So you guys are going to get my immediate thoughts and reaction to it. So just bear with me, and there might be some pause, or that's just because I'm reading and trying to put all my thoughts and everything together. So let me turn to the screen and take a look at this medical school personal statement that a student wants me to read. And I'm looking at it. Okay, and so we're talking about, looks like, I don't want to give away all the details of what's going on to keep that a little bit private, but I'll just give you overview of what I'm seeing. Looks like they're a track athlete and they're talking about that. And as I read that, I'm thinking, okay, we could make that a little bit better. We could jump in here and make the opening grab my attention a little bit more than as I'm reading a little bit further in this. They're talking about the crowd screaming, they're sprinting across the finish line, and they actually came in first. And so then I would think I might want to open a personal statement with that at the beginning. Just put me right in the middle of that scene. You're running, maybe talk about like what's going through your head. Maybe there's some pain as you're an athlete and you just know that you really need to outshine the competition. You really need to push and you get that second kick, that win to really push you across so you can come in first. So that's going to grab your reader's attention because I don't know exactly what's happening. Then you kind of put in a little bit more background story of what's taking place, and then you tie that into like teams, discipline, and all of that helps you prepare for a career in medicine. And then I'm going on to the second paragraph. The first thing, it's a little bit, I don't see a connection here. So what I would do is I would tell the student that they would need to do something to make the connection between the first paragraph and the second paragraph. It needs to make more sense because it just seems like it's just thrown in there. And I'm not really sure how that ties into everything with their essay overall. So I'm reading a little bit more. Okay, I'm seeing a little bit more what they did on, looks like they were overseas on a trip and learning more about how different countries and other members of society handle health issues. And what is it again? If I seem like I'm very obtuse in my thinking, it's just because I don't want to give away too much about the applicant's essay, so that's why I'm using very roundabout words in my discussion. I'm also reading it now. Okay, so now I can see a little bit about, they're talking about they're having passion for medicine, and because of this experience overseas, that it just gave them a push to do a lot better at college. And now they're telling me that their grades are not a true reflection of their potential, and they're going to blossom and they're going to display resilience. And you see that all the time with applicants. They're going to tell us that, yeah, these are the grades, this is what happened to me in school, but it really doesn't show my potential or what I can do in medicine. But unfortunately, getting into medical school is extremely tough. It's very competitive, and so your grades do matter. Obviously, if you want to have very high grades overall throughout your time in undergrad or whatever part of your process of even grad school, if you're applying to medical school after that. But the best thing to do then, if you can't have top grades throughout your career, would be to show a positive upward trajectory in your grades is what you would need to do. So I don't like to throw in a one line about grades not a reflection unless you're going to tell me a little bit more about what's going on with those grades. So I, excuse me, so I have a little bit more background information in regards to that. So I would say do that, and you want to put things into a positive light, because as an AdCom, I'm going to have your primary application, so I'm going to see your official transcripts, your grades, your GPA. So if you're going to tell me something negative about your grades not being reflected, you got to really boost that up so it makes good, so it leaves it on a positive spin. Otherwise, I might not have known that about your grades, but now that you tell me that your grades aren't where they need to be, now that just puts a negative thought in my head. That's something I might be a little bit concerned about or worried about as you as an applicant, where if you left it out, it wouldn't have been such a big deal. So whenever you write, you've got to remember the whole purpose of the personal statement is to move yourself forward and really sell yourself to adcoms on why you should be admitted to medical school as opposed to somebody else. So you want to make sure that's what you're doing. You're selling yourself and you're putting yourself ahead of everybody else who's applying to medical school as well. Okay, this student, now I'm going into another paragraph. And so basically what I'm starting to see is that the student is writing about an experience shadowing another physician, and basically let me try to see if I can read this a little bit. They're talking about okay, you're watching about how a physician did something, and you're naming the physician that you shadowed with, and you're telling me like the physician listened, was understanding, asked specific questions and all of that stuff, and demonstrated certain things for the patient. And then you're telling me that you kind of want to embody these traits as a physician. That's great, but don't do that in your personal statement, because what you're doing is you just wrote a whole paragraph kind of where you're talking about another physician. And I like to say that's like writing a great glowing recommendation for this other doctor, but it doesn't tell me anything about you as an applicant and what you should be doing and your chances of getting into medical school. So be very conscientious of doing that and make sure that you're not doing that, because students, they make three mistakes I see all the time when they're doing their personal statements. There's three topics they always want to write about. They want to write about how education's important. They maybe come from a family of immigrants and growing up education was a stress, and that's why they want to be a doctor, because it's lifelong learning and prestige for the family, and that's just been something that they've been pushed down to go towards that path. Is one thing I see with students all the time. And then the other point would be that you shadowed some physician, you're just amazed by them, what they did, what you observed, and they embody everything that you believe a physician should have, and you want to be just like them. You want to emulate them throughout your time as becoming a physician. So you don't want to do that, because you're telling me about somebody else instead of yourself in your personal statement, because we all know there's great physicians out there in the world, but that doesn't help me know anything about you and what you can do. And then the other thing that students like to write about, they often talk about that they had this experience. Maybe they were in science class, anatomy, physiology, or biology class, and they just were enthralled by something they saw, observed, or learned, and now they're telling me that they want to spend the rest of their life unraveling the mysteries of the human body, and there's no better way that they can do that than through a career in medicine. So you want to make sure that you're not making those three mistakes covering those topics in your personal statement. Yes, you can briefly cover them, but you have to go about it in a very certain particular way so that you're really standing out. Otherwise, I tell students, really try to avoid those topics, because everybody talks about it. So this applicant, they're not the only one who's done this. Basically, I can say over 90% of the personal statements I read, edit, and advise with, they are making these same mistakes with that. And so now so you want to make sure you're not doing that. So I'm not an AdCom at a school right now, so it's not like I'm getting 10,000 applications per year to review and edit. But if out of the ones that I am getting, over 90% of you guys are doing the same thing, then that's not going to really bode well for your chances of getting into medical school or helping you stand out, because everybody is doing that, and you want to stand out. When you have to remember that 60% of people who apply to medical school are ultimately going to get rejected from medical school just based on the numbers. So you really need to do something, and what you can do is with your personal statement, because if you're a mediocre applicant, one of the most high yield things that you can do time-wise to really improve your chance of getting into medical school is your personal statement. So you really need to give it the time, dedication that it needs. And if you're a really high caliber applicant, I'm talking about like the super high stats, the GPA, MCAT score, all of that, you can actually hurt your chance of getting into medical school based on what you put or do not put in your personal statement. So there's a lot at stake with the personal statement. And also, you have to remember with the personal statement, you have 100% control over the personal statement. It's not like a test that your professors are giving you where you know like there's material that you need to study, review, do problems for, and you're not 100% sure what type of questions the professor is going to ask you. So there's a little bit hit or miss there, but you can really prepare and do well on it. Same thing with the MCAT. You know the outline, you know the topics that are going to be covered on the MCAT, but you don't know 100% what specific questions are going to be asked, the ratio of them, and all of that. So there's a little bit hit or miss, cat and mouse there with that, where a little bit kind of up to chance. However, with the personal statement, you have complete control over it. There's no surprises. You're sitting down, you're writing, there's no pressure. Well, maybe you feel that there's pressure because you got to make this outstanding personal statement, but you have all the time in the world to write this essay and take the time, get it edited, get it revised. So you got to make sure that you're using that to your advantage. And as an adcom, we know that. So we're going to be like, we don't want to see mistakes. We don't want to see grammatical errors. We don't want to see spelling errors. And we want to say, like, did you put some time and effort into your personal statement? That's what we want to know. So now so make sure you're doing that. So now we're going back to, I'm going to read another paragraph in this personal statement. Obviously, I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to be a little bit, I guess, not fully immersed in the personal statement because I usually don't read personal statements live. This is the first time doing this and actually give feedback at the same time. But let me see what's happening with this second or where I left off at. Okay. Okay, yeah, okay, so now I'm starting to see another issue that this personal statement is starting to read as one of the adcoms from when I was a president of the Pre-Med Society of Northwestern. We had medical schools come to our campus and do presentations. We had something called Medical School Day, and I remember there's a presentation by the University of Pittsburgh, and one of the adcoms says that your personal statement is not a resume in prose. So what that means is don't make your resume into paragraph format. And this looks like this applicant's doing that because they're talking about a tutoring experience then. So we went from let's see, I'm going to just scroll up from the top. So we talked about sports in the first paragraph. Second paragraph, we'll say that was like an overseas missions trip. Third paragraph was talking about emulating a physician that they want to be just like. And now fourth paragraph, we're talking about tutoring. And so let's see, what do we have? Okay, so so the fifth paragraph, I think, talks a little bit more about that, about the tutoring experience and working with a student directly. Okay, and then it looks like they want to follow it back up in the sixth paragraph. I'm looking at that to see how this is going to close out. They're going back to their sports analogy a little bit, and they're they're wrapping everything up, recapping everything. Okay, and let's see. All right. Okay, I would change this around a little bit. I like to. It's good that they're recapping everything. They're not introducing new information to the reader because you don't want to do that. But you need to. I like to close. Like, okay, they're talking about being an advocate for patients, all of that, providing premier medical treatment, and they want to be empathetic and treat everybody individually, but I think you want to close out making a very strong case, like you look forward to the next steps in the application process, you're excited about matriculating at the medical school, and you just want to leave it on a very strong, high, positive note. Remember, you want to sell yourself to AdComs, why you should be admitted over everybody else. And now that I read over this personal statement, I'm noticing that there's two things that is being left out. I tell people this all the time, so this isn't like groundbreaking information that's gonna do anything differently for you, but it will definitely get you into medical school, because you need to do this in any application, any personal state for medical school. I need to know why medicine. Why do you want to be a physician? What's driving you to become a doctor? I don't see that at all. Like a lot of students, this is basically a personal statement, and resume and prose, so it's like a resume basically in paragraph format is basically what this is, but it doesn't tell me like why this person like have a desire to be a physician. And I also don't get a sense of, out of everybody who's applying to medical school, why should I take a chance on you? Why should we admit you to our medical school? What are you bringing to the table? And you have to remember, you have your activities section for your personal statement. And so with that, that's your chance to kind of explore some of these topics. And if I'm an AdCom, what some of them would do, anything that I'm actually making an X on the screen in the air, whatever is what I'm doing, is anything that they could find in your activities section, they would strike it out on the personal statement and skip it, because they're like, it's already somewhere else, so I'm not going to read that. And if I would do this for this applicant, I think over 85% of the personal statement, maybe even 90% of the personal statement would be marked X'd out, because it's information that's really just telling me more about activities, extracurriculars, and I don't get a sense of who this person is. I just see activities that they've done. And you got to remember, there's, for the personal statement, you have 5,300 characters to make the case why you need to be in medical school. So you do not need to repeat anything that can be found elsewhere in your application. The personal statement is where you can really set yourself apart. You need to have your reader take a look at your personal statement. At the end of the day, they need to take a look at it and go, you know what? I like this person. I want to meet them in person. And you know what they mean by meeting you in person? That's being granted a medical school interview invite. And I'm just not sure if that's going to happen with this one, because you got to think, if I'm reading a stack of personal statements as a physician, I've done stuff in a hospital, maybe then I have some meetings after getting out of the hospital, then it's late at night, I need to go, and now I need to do my AdCom work and read over these applications. Is yours going to be the one that's going to stand out of a pile of like 20 to 50 applications that I'm going to read in the evening? Right now, this isn't the case with this applicant's personal statement, because I just don't have a strong sense of who they are and what they're going to bring to the field of medicine, or why they want to be a doctor in the first place, and just something very compelling for them. I just get a hodgepodge of experiences is not really tied into a solid, consistent theme where I know like what they're going to bring to my medical school. I just don't see that. So this applicant would need to do some work on their personal statement. It's not horrible. They're a good writer overall. It's just about how they're going about their topic and what they need to do for their personal statement. I would have them overhaul that so that they can do better in regards to that. And what I like to tell people is, I give you honest, direct feedback that's objective, that's going to really help you out. I tell students, we'd rather hear bad news from me, Dr. Spears, where you have a chance to correct it. Because if you hear bad news, let's say this applicant went ahead and submitted this personal statement to the medical schools, if they'll take a look at this and they'll see the same things that I've seen in this personal statement, and they'll have issues with it. And when they have issues with it, they're not going to say, okay, applicant, we saw your personal statement, we saw what you were trying to do, and so we're going to just take a pass and overlook some of the things. Nope, they're going to just say, put the big R on it, reject, or we're not going to move forward with it, or we're going to put it aside on hold or something like that. We're going to just see what else is going to come through the pipeline. Is unfortunately what happens, and because their decisions are going to be final. So that's why you need to get this help. You need to have somebody on your side who goes through this process and understands what's occurring when it comes to medical school applications, because I see this stuff all the time. And you guys, what, one time you're writing a personal statement for medical school, or worst case scenario, two times because you didn't get it in the first time. And so that's no fault of your own. So that's why you really need to get some expert help on your side when it comes to the personal statement for medical school and all portions of your application. So just wanted to put that out there for you guys. So I'm done reviewing this personal statement, so I got to write up all these comments on what I observe. I probably don't have to write up too much because they can have this video as well, but I'm going to give them some feedback then on how I'm going to help them pull everything together and make this a lot stronger than what it is. And for this, unfortunately, this is one of those personal statements where I can't go and do a line by line edit on the personal statement because there's going to be way too much that's going to actually change in it. So I'm not going to shortchange the student. I like start correcting things. I'll move this sentence here, move this, change this word choice to something else, because that's just not going to be beneficial to them when I know that this personal statement actually needs to basically completely overhaul a new rewrite on it so that it can stand out on its own and really help this applicant get into medical school. There's a lot of work involved in personal statement, right? I remember when I was, what was it? Long time ago when I was applying to medical school and I had to do my personal statement, I had AdComs were helping me with it, and I like spent all this time and effort writing a personal statement. I would send it off to the AdCom. They would review it, and they're like, "No, you need to pick a different topic. Can you think about something else to write about?" It was just mind-boggling how many times that they sent it back to me with like changes and corrections that they wanted. It wasn't even like line by line stuff. It was like, no, you need to totally start over from scratch. You need to pick a different topic. How about you try running with that one paragraph and expand upon that and everything like that. And it was just like, why is this person making me do this? But you know what? It worked. Got into medical school, got into multiple medical schools actually. But the thing is, that shows that somebody's actually dedicated and has your best interest. Because yeah, some people are like, oh yeah, well, I'll just sign off on it because I just need to get through this and on to the next applicant that I'm working with. But that's not how I work at all. I'm dedicated. I'm helping you guys really achieve what you need to achieve to make sure that you get where you need to be. I really try to be personalized in my work and what I do for applicants to help them get to the next level. And so it's daunting for some students that there's so much that I'm picking out nitty-gritty things. But you have to remember, you only get one shot with your personal statement. This personal statement that you write, once you submit it, you can't change it. So it's springtime, almost summer. Are you going to be happy with this 5, 6, 7 months down the road with what you wrote? So you got to remember that. And it goes out to all the medical schools. And so you need to make sure that it's strong, it's compelling, it answers 2 questions, why medicine and why you, and you need to really sell yourself, because everybody else is applying to medical school. And I get students all the time who tell me, I worked so hard in undergrad, this is my GPA, this is my MCAT score, such a high percentile, so I deserve to be in a certain caliber medical school, and that's what I'm holding out for. And then you take a look at other parts of the application, and you're just like, you know what, yeah, you have the stats, but this personal statement and the writing aspect that's going to follow up, you really need to shore that up and make sure it's strong. Because I got to tell you guys, after you get done with like by the time you're ready to apply to medical school, there's a lot that's already set in stone. Your GPA basically is not going to change, because that's a couple of years worth of classes that you've been working at. So that's pretty much set in stone. That's not going to move. And I kind of feel MCAT, yeah, you can have some movement with that, but you really got to be like a stellar student. You got to be, you don't have to be a stellar student. You have to be dedicated for the MCAT and really put in the time and work that's required of it. But if your grades aren't like super strong, I just don't see people like doing a huge jump on the MCAT to compensate for it. Yes, it's possible, but more likely than not, your stats are pretty much going to be static and not going to move too much. However, with this personal statement, you have a lot of room to really sell yourself, stand out, and make a huge difference for your application, getting yourself ahead of everybody. Because again, personal statement is one of the most high yield activities that you can do while applying to medical school. And after the stats, so your MCAT, GPA, all of that's taken care of, get ready to become a writer, because you're going to be doing a lot of writing. And that like surprised me when I was applying to medical school too. Just think about it. You have your personal statement, how many edits, how many revisions are you going to be doing for that? So that's a lot of work in regards to that. And then you have your secondaries. It's writing. You're going to be writing like mini personal statements, basically answering essay questions and all of that stuff. So you got to be prepared for that. It's a lot of writing going forward in that process. So if you're not a strong writer, then you want to make sure that you have somebody on your side who can help you out with that. Because I know a lot of people come to medicine, they have a strong science, math background. Well, no, actually in med school, it's funny. One of the professors like, yeah, you guys are strong in science, but your math is kind of weak, which is kind of funny when you think about it. And I actually, math isn't too crazy or horrible for me. I remember one time, what was it? I was in third year med student. Was that? Yeah, third year med student waiting on, they were trying to reset the room for another OR case with one of the thoracic surgeons or whatever. And I don't know the specific topic or whatever we were discussing. And like before, like in the like one of the physician lounges or whatever, and some of the other staff was in there, and somebody like threw out some numbers for something, and I just like went through the math really fast in my head, and like, oh, it's gonna be that, and like everyone was shocked that like I just like threw out these numbers that fast, like I was able to calculate in my head just because a lot of people don't do that. I don't know why I'm even talking about that right now. So I'm going to kind of end this now and type my response to this applicant's personal statement, give them feedback, give them suggestions on what they can do to improve their personal statements so that they can stand out and really present their best foot forward in this process of getting into medical school. So again, Dr. Spears. You guys can find me at drpremed.com. That's the website. And I enjoy working with students, helping you guys get to the next level and get you ultimately where you want to be, and that's successfully admitted to medical school so that you can go on and become a physician. So thank you for taking a view of this as I go over like some of the thought process of what's going through my head, and also what AdComs are thinking as we review and take a look at personal statements and any like writing samples that you guys are doing in this process of getting into medical school. Again, Dr. Spears from drpremed.com.